Welcome back to Up Front. The state budget talks have been hung up in part because of differences on how to pay for state roads and highways. Republican lawmakers don't like the level of borrowing the governor has proposed. They want to scale it back, and that means some road projects will have to be put on hold. What's the impact of this, and just how much discretion does the Department of Transportation have? We're talking now with Craig Thompson of the Transportation Development Association. Craig, it's good to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, what is the potential impact? If this plays out, as many people are suspecting, and we see the bonding scaled back greatly and delays occurring, what does that mean for state transportation?
It's really hard to overstate what the impact would be. We don't know exactly how it's going to occur, but I know in this area there's been a lot of discussion if the core part of the zoo would be delayed, just what the economic impact of that would be to the area, and it would increase the cost of the project, which is absolutely true. But to lesser degrees, you've got those same stories playing out all across the state. So the impact on both the economy and safety, quite frankly, could be significant.
You know that there are a lot of outstate lawmakers who say if we're going to feel the pain, then everybody's going to share the pain, and that we want the zoo, a big project, to also feel it. What would be the impact if the zoo interchange, for example, were to be delayed in some form?
Well, it's the busiest interchange in the state. It has the most commerce running through it every day in the entire state. You've got Froedtert, Children's Hospital, Medical College of Wisconsin situated all right off there. You know, the impacts would be significant. Not to mention the fact that if you delay it, it will increase the cost of the project in the long run. The problem is, though, again, there's similar stories, maybe to a lesser degree, but I-3990 in Janesville, Beloit, those folks are saying you could insert our project and say the exact same things there. 441 up in the Fox Valley, and then just a host of local roads all across the state. So you know, if you're an outstate legislator, I think a lot of them understand the zoo interchange is incredibly important, but it's almost like saying, you know, if transportation is the lifeblood, do we cut the aorta or some other major artery? I mean, those are the choices we're sort of left with making.
So you're talking with lawmakers. Your organization obviously feels strongly that you need to find some solution to our transportation funding needs. What is the best you can hope for, your organization, from this budget process?
Well, I guess the best we would hope for is that the legislature, the governor submitted them a budget. They don't agree with the level of bonding, and we agree with them that, quite frankly, it would put us behind the eight ball for another generation probably to get out from under the debt service. So we think they should pass the budget that they believe is right for Wisconsin, not one that necessarily the governor said he's going to sign, but one that they believe is right. And
what would that accomplish if they pass a budget knowing full well the governor is going to veto any hike in the gas tax or a vehicle registration fee?
Well, you know, we have user fees to pay for our transportation system, and we just had a constitutional amendment where over 80% or around 80% of the voters said that those dollars should stay in that fund. So we think we should adjust the user fees to pay for what we need to have done. If the legislature does that, the governor then will have to make a decision on whether he will veto or not, and if he does, then they'll have to make the decision on whether they want to override or not. That's really the way the process is supposed to work.
Now, are you concerned, from your perspective, that the state is falling behind its Midwestern neighbors in terms of addressing its roads and bridges and the needs that we have in this state?
I don't think there's any question about it. There was just a study out that the Taxpayers Alliance did for the Local Government Institute, and they said we're now in the bottom third of the country in our road conditions. What we're paying between registration fee and gas tax is way lower than any of our neighbors, and you know we're seeing it in the condition of our roads, county roads, city roads, town roads, and then these major projects that need to get done as well.
Do you think it would require to convince lawmakers? Does it require a major selling job that now is the time to look at a tax increase or a vehicle registration fee increase? Do you think there is support for that in the legislature that we just don't see right now?
I think there's an understanding that, you know, we need to pay for the things that we need to do. We can't put it all on a credit card, and we can't defer it all. The problem is we haven't had a lot of leadership from the top, and so it makes it tougher on those issues. But I think overall there is an understanding within the building that we need to simply do what many states across the country are doing and just adjust the user fee to pay for what we need to do in this state.
Here's a question that maybe we don't know the answer to, but the Department of Transportation, how much discretion does the department have in determining which projects would be delayed or which projects would continue to move forward?
You know, I don't know that there's a very easy answer to that. There is some discretion that the DOT can have and the engineers can decide. It would depend, I think, on if there's a cut, how big. They can only do so much with federal money and bonding. You know, there's only certain things they could move that money to or from. The mega projects in the southeast part, like the zoo and the interstate, 75% of that is bond funds right now, and that's what we're talking. That's what's being debated, being cut. So there's some discretion, but they only have so much prerogative to do with those dollars, so it's not terribly clear.
And you think it may be a while before we get some of these issues resolved in the budget? Is that your best guess right now?
Well, again, you've got legislators all across the state saying, you know, my local roads and my major projects in my area that we need would be cut if I vote for this budget. That's a tough thing to ask people to do.
All right. Craig Thompson, it's good to have you back on the program. Craig Thompson is with the Transportation Development Association, Executive Director there. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Wisconsin Democrats have elected a new chairwoman. I'll be asking Martha Lanning how she plans to help the party win elections again when Upfront continues. And tell us what you think about the big issues of the day by liking and sharing Upfront on Facebook.